Rosie Cayou is going to show us how to make dried clams. She dug these steamers last night and cooked them open. All right, Rosie, so you've just shelled it out.
I think with the next batch we'll have the bigger ones. I think with this batch it was pretty well picked over. But you can pretty much...
So that needle went in just by the neck there.
Yeah, if you want to knot that on the bottom, I
Sure.
think it will be. See, it wants to move around.
So we just added a knot at the end so that the clam's not going to fall off. We're making a necklace out of them because it stores them well that way, but it also means you have a movable snack. You can carry your clams around with you. You can hang the necklace up to store it, because once it's dry, once it's been smoked and dried, they keep just fine. I don't think you have to freeze them or refrigerate them. You just want to keep them dry. And then, yeah, you can wear that clam necklace. It'll make you smell a little bit like lunch, but and it's a traditional way of both storing and carrying clams.
I've seen men put them over their necks to go hunting.
Yep, yep.
And that goes with any of the shellfish. I mean, if they, sometimes you see an old man going with getting ready to go hunting. He took all various types of dried meat, elk, salmon. You know, you make salmon necklaces. You know, it's just easy to store. I mean, and it's preserved well. So when we get so far, you want to lay it down.
I spread them out.
Yeah, here's a plate. And then when you're ready to lay them on a plate or on the screen that you're drying them on, and it doesn't have to be that far apart, just a part where they're not going to dry together.
So you want to give them some space so that they won't stick together as they dry.
Yeah.
And you don't have to string them through the neck.
No,
like you don't have to put it right
just
up
as
the
long
siphon.
as Up the center of the clam.
So it holds the whole thing on.
Yeah.
And then once we've got them strung up, we're going to want to dry them. You want to tell me how they were traditionally dried?
In a traditional salmon smokehouse or behind Grandma's cook stove. Mostly behind Grandma's cook stove, since she could keep an eye on it during the next couple of days. They actually...
The wood stoves.
Yeah. They actually, and they can get those wood stoves pretty hot. And they actually did butter clams more than steamer clams.
Nice big butter clams.
And they also did octopus
Oh, yeah.
behind the stoves, dried it. Anything that was dryable. Sea cucumber.
What do you think? Is that enough for a string?
Oh, yeah.
Do I want to tie them together or just leave it as a string like that? Tie the ends together into a
Yeah.
necklace?
But don't lift it up now.
Okay.
You can just bring it to your dehydrator. Do you have your dehydrator pans with you?
I do. I'll go.
Can we smoke them in the dehydrator
No, we'll
pans?
have to smoke them on a smoker rack.
Okay,
But
then
I've
we
got the
need
smoker rack. I'll get that. So there's one string of them. And because we don't have a old style smokehouse, we're going to put these in a little smoker to give them some of the same flavor.
Mhm.
And then after they've gotten some smoke flavor, because we want them to keep really well, we're going to put them in a dehydrator, just dry them out. So we'll make the process shorter because we don't have a wood stove going all the time right now this time of year.
So I'm thinking they would have to be in that little smoker at least 5 hours, right?
Well, I think we'll get some flavor if we just put them in for an hour, but they'll probably taste better the longer you leave them. We're going to put a new batch in here.
And this batch, we're going to cook longer.
Okay.
The first batch, when it gets over easier, you want these here fat ones. And you want them cooked. You want them cooked so they're super firm.
I don't know if I got the length right on these.
So Rosie, after you dug these clams, what did you do with them? You wash them? Did you soak them?
When my son went down, Peter went down, got some salt water, and they're purged overnight. Never purge it in cornmeal. Never. Because you want to cook a happy clam. You don't want a clam who's soaked in cornmeal all night. Cornmeal can actually grow, and especially in the summertime, bacteria as well.
So they were just left to purge in fresh salt water.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks okay. And these are just cooking in the clam nectar from the last batch. So these will cook until they open up, and then because we want them a little firmer, we'll cook them a little longer.
Okay. Yeah.
And then these ones can be strung up and smoked as well. Anything else you want to tell people about clams and clam necklaces, Rosie?
You know what I do want to tell people is, you'll notice when you were eating your clams that you weren't biting into sand. Maybe somebody bit into a little bit sand, maybe not, but for the most part not. A lot of it has to do with what its treat was before or overnight, and that was the salt water we cooked, that we actually got out of our ocean near Guaymas. One thing about digging clams, you don't want to bury your hole back up when you're clamming. One of the reasons is because you bury the seed. You bury the seed that the clams left. And it destroys the seed.
So you want to make sure that the clams can go on and keep growing in that same beach, and be respectful of the baby clams, so that
Does
you'll keep
anybody
being able
want
to
to
eat.
know how I got clams when there's no clam tide?
How'd you get clams when there was no clam tide?
Over on our beach in Samish, at the sand spit, you don't have to have much of a tide. It doesn't have to be minus. I mean, I could be on the beach right here and dig right where she's standing.
Oh wow! So you have to know the right spot.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of how clam gardens work. You
Yeah.
can build a clam garden where the tide stays right for longer. It's one of the things that I know that Marco found in the clam gardens is that not just that the clams did better, but that the amount of time that you had to dig those clams was longer because it was a flatter beach because of the way that those clam gardens were built. And so it made it easier to get more food out of the garden.
If we didn't, if the scientists knew today what there are in 1970, what people are learning today, there wouldn't even have to be clam gardens.
Right.
They'd still be just as natural and plentiful if they didn't bury the holes back up when they dug the clam out. Because the seed from that clam, it tumbles around. It wants to go where it wants to replant.
Right.
And not replant and get smothered by more dirt. That's what happens.